Hello, good morning. It's Josh here from racingtoprofit.co.uk. It's currently, 28 minutes past 10 on Monday the 22nd. I hope you had a great weekend and are ready for the week ahead. This video is going to look at Nicky Richards and hopefully we can find some angles. I had a brief look at him a few weeks ago, but I'm very much going into this blind really, so we will see what we can find. This is pretty much my general approach to researching trainers in terms of handicap micro angles and trainer profiling, and trying to find any snippets that we may be able to profit from moving forwards. I will try and go through everything I normally do, but I want to keep this video, or try and keep this video short, kind of 20 minutes if I can max, although I do have a habit sometimes for droning on a bit. I've got with me my trends and stats checklist, which you've all seen before for big race analysis, but this has a few kind of pointers on just to remind me to make sure I try and look at all different factors that are relevant when trying to research a micro system. I probably will miss things out, not deliberately, but if that happens, you'll probably come up with your own ideas for different things that you may research in that I may miss or forget. So, with that said, that's the introduction. Hopefully you can see me in the bottom right hand corner, and you can see my horse race base screen of one of my accounts. So to start with, go to the top right hand corner, V4 System Builder. I know many of you are probably familiar with this and probably do the same thing, but for those of you who aren't or may not have this approach, hopefully you find it useful and something of interest. So we need a starting set of data, something from which we can kind of dig into. And I click add. Is the computer about to blow up? It's gone very slow. Hold on, give me a moment. We seem to have technical difficulties. Right, we appear to be back. This is live and I can't be bothered to record it or edit it, to be honest. Right, so yes, we've got overview. That's just opening up the system builder, V4 system builder. Going to add, so I want a starting set, which for this case is going to be race code, because I'm going to look at jumps racing. I always start off with handicaps and non-handicaps, and then if I find a trainer I can always kind of go out and then look back in at their record with certain non-handicap runners as well. I want year. I always use the kind of last 5 full calendar years as a starting point. I am conscious actually for the kind of any future guides I produce, especially the kind of trainer track profiles, that kind of looking at the last 3 years is probably more relevant, but for this kind of purpose we'll do the last 5 and we can see a breakdown over all of those years. So I think that's the starting set, so click those, proceed. So I want National Hunt Racing, I want handicap, I want 2011 onwards, so the last 5 full years, and then obviously we're into 2016 as well. Now I want to break down by trainer. I sometimes add an odds cap at this point, just as a guide, because if trainers can't be profitable, say with odds that have an SP of 12 to 1 or shorter, you know, that's a pretty good guide, and you're kind of ensuring that a trainer's results aren't skewed by, you know, a couple of 50 to 1 outsiders or something. But for now, that is an option, adding an odds cap in at that point. I'm not going to. I'm going to go to trainer. So I'm breaking down that starter set by all the different trainers, as you can see here. They're in alphabetical order, I believe, at that point, and you can sort them by however kind of which way you wish, from win percentage, profit loss. So if we start with win percentage, that's obviously going to start with those who have quite a small stats pool. So we're looking for, you know, you want a big fairly chunky pool to dive into. Trainer angles and micro angles, you're never going to, well, with some trainers, as you'll see, there are hundreds of horses to select and to kind of dive into. For a lot, there aren't. And the starting point is behavior. It's trying to have a logical reason for why a trainer may do something, and you're simply never going to get a mass of numbers that proper maths types would say are statistically important or relevant. It's just not going to happen most of the time. So you have a decision whether you kind of trust the figures and trust the human behaviour element and have a kind of confidence that that is going to be repeated moving forwards, or you don't. I always present the stats as I find them for you to interpret as you please. So if I go down, well, I've actually talked about Ken Slack. I believe he took over, as you can see at the top there, from, is it his mother or some other family relative took the license over this year, and he's had a decent little start, especially with the placed horses, probably from a small string. So he is one to note, actually, just in general. And I'm just going to write him down on my notepad because that's a decent start to a handicap training career, given that he is going to be operating at the kind of class 4, class 5 dross level, for want of a better phrase. So that's something. Ken Slack, maybe we can dive into him a bit, because I should think he may target certain tracks. But I'm just going to stick to Nicky Richards for this video and try and keep it fairly short. Don Cantillon there, another one. Then you get into like Savancy Honeyball. I mean, we've got a pretty decent angle with him for handicap hurdlers, which does well. The Bradstocks there, generally consistent with their handicap runners. Ruth Carr, those that she does send over jumps. Kerry Lee is another one there. She's had a brilliant start to her training career, and that's, when I go through these videos, the stats are there for you to see. So by all means, get your notebook out and start, take notes on anything that you see that interests you and that you may wish to dive in yourself in the future if you have a Horse Race Base account or similar building software, system building software. So yeah, Kerry Lee's there, 15 from 69, 25 places, decent profit level. And we've got a couple of angles for her handicap chasers, which are doing well so far. If only I had backed the last one on Saturday. Who else we got? Harry Fry's there. So we're getting down to big stat. Henry Oliver, I mean, he's just turning into quite a decent trainer of handicappers. Again, he's another who we have an angle for in terms of handicap hurdlers. Kind of class 4 or 5 and below, I think. And we can keep coming down. You can see Harry Whittington. That's interesting. So early on, you compare his stats to someone like Kenneth Slack, who's got a lot more profit. Lots of media hype around this trainer. He's got some pretty good horses pretty early that have kind of put him on the map. And already it looks like the market has cottoned on pretty quickly to his handicappers. They're performing, if you look to the right, only 11% above market expectations. So there's not a lot of leeway there. It wouldn't appear, but that's just something of interest for note in terms of if you ever thought about just backing his handicappers blind. It looks at the moment, obviously you would do much better taking an earlier price. I should suspect a lot of his are well backed, but in terms of SP, pretty hard to make a profit, which for me is always a good sign for any system. If they can kind of do well at SP, you kind of know you're going to do well over the longer term by getting bigger prices in the morning, or kind of 10-15 minutes before the race starts. So then we get on to, and you can maybe see why it caught the eye when I had a quick glance the other week. That's a lot of runners, 554, 18% over that number of runners in the places. That's pretty solid, and he's not losing much at SP, which gives confidence for digging. So I could go further through all those, but the point is to look at Nicky Richards as a starting point. And now you've kind of got many options about how you kind of slice and dice and come up with different starting sets. At this point, I do like to have a quick look at odds, just to see if market is important, if there's any kind of horses that are many wins that kind of skew the results. So, I mean, the first thing to note there is the record of those are what, 22 to 1 or above starting price. What have we got? 11, 16, 26, 28, 33, 36, 39. 0 from 39, 3 places. So 0 from 39, 3 places at 22 to 1 plus SP. So for now, it looks like money is important to an extent. 3 have placed, but just so that the stats, I can build in and build out and look at the odds again at some other point, but I am just going to restrict them to those that are 20 to 1 and under, just so it gets rid of those 39, and we can kind of look at the results a bit better, or get a kind of firmer grip on what we're looking at. Next, what am I going to do? Look at the breakdown between handicap hurdles and handicap chases. So let me scoot to the bottom. So you can see there, I mean, that's interesting in terms of his chasers. Decent, but the profit to SP is pretty low, suggesting they're obviously well backed, and there isn't much leeway, whereas the hurdlers, 20%, 31 points. The place record's pretty similar. They perform a bit better above market expectations. So that's interesting for now. Now I'm always keen to then go into research chasers versus hurdlers. They are, obviously they're different codes, different national hunt race type, and kind of researching everything as one lump I don't think is too useful, or certainly not something I like to do. So for now we can go back and look at chasers separately, but let's look at the hurdlers. And then kind of the choice is yours really. So you've got that starting set. If we have a look broken down by year, as you'd expect, kind of they fluctuate. In 2013, as you can see, that was a bad year. Whether or not he had illness, whether or not, I don't know, horses were just too well handicapped, he hadn't brought well, it was just a bad year for stock, in terms of horses bought in previous years or horses that have maybe retired from the years before. Who knows, but that was a pretty bad year. But if you take that year out, everything else is looking pretty solid. I mean, the thing with interesting me with him is he just seems to keep getting better, actually, Nicky Richards, for one reason or another, over the last 5 years, and the last 2 especially. I mean, that's a decent, just Nicky Richards handicap hurdlers, 2014 onwards are doing pretty well, and is something just to note. Moving forward, any race, Nicky Richards has got a handicap hurdler. The last few years has been operating at the kind of 27 to 30% strike rate, which is interesting in itself. Now, I know from previous angles and you looking at my GG's reports and stuff that Nicky Richards is pretty good with his handicap debutants, I believe. So we've got the starting set of looking at handicaps. Now I want to look at how many times a horse has run in a handicap of the national hunt race type. So how many times has a horse ran in handicap hurdles? So this will allow us to see if that's a kind of valid angle and weigh in. And unsurprisingly, yes it is. So those handicap hurdling debutants, they're running in a handicap hurdle for the first time. They may have run in a handicap on a flat, they may have run in a handicap chase, that's irrelevant. This is the first run in a handicap hurdle. Most of these will be coming out of the kind of novice hurdle, maiden hurdle route, I suspect. But it's interesting that they are the only category here that you can back kind of blind, and the rest lose quite a bit as they get more experienced, as they get more exposed. But with those that the handicapper kind of isn't aware of their full ability, Nicky Richards clearly has a talent for hiding the true ability of his horses making handicap debut. Let's have a look at broken down by year. Again, your small numbers. 2015 did well, 2014, and that's a decent little angle in itself. We can break down by odds even further if we want. It wouldn't surprise me this kind of run of the market may even, maybe more of a guide, or not. Actually, no, that's or not really. Is there 3 horses to go off over 12 to 1? One is placed. That certainly isn't any reason to ignore odds at all. So we've got that. The other thing, I should think. Well, sometimes there are certain tracks that trainers target for all their runners, as we know, and I'm kind of a fan of kind of track stats. Or trainer track stats, I should say. So breaking down by track may be revealing. We are dealing with small numbers here. I like to sort these by wins high to low, just to get an idea. Yeah, I mean, we are Kelso, Sedgefield, Ayr, Newcastle, etc., etc. The numbers for the rest are pretty small, actually. We can break down that maybe by track location. Again, actually, there's not too much there. The ones he sends to Scotland, interesting, but in terms of track, nothing. Other things we might want to look into that stats pool is race class. Again, we're dealing with small numbers here, and I'm starting to think it's probably not worth looking at much else. Distance, what have we got? Where is distance? Oh, yes, up the top, sorry. So we can look at race distance and kind of see if there's anything there. No, I wouldn't say there's anything there in particular. Although, I mean, if you said those that he introduces below 20 furlongs are, what are they? They're 2 from 16, 7 places. I mean, that's tentative. You only need kind of, 1 or 2 of those places to kind of go in, and those stats look different. And actually, if you look at the qualifiers, it's always interesting just to see how many were close. Flinty Bay was second, by 1.5 lengths. What have we got? Tuchek. Sorry, I'm just looking at the result of the race. Oh, that was 5 lengths, so he was fairly well beaten. Bernadelli was beaten by 12 lengths. Okay, so yeah, those places, and a few beaten. But so that's interesting. That's just there. Whereas then, if we look at, so if I remove that, if I break down again, so I'm back to that starting set. Break down again by race distance, and we go to 20 furlongs or further. You're kind of 9 from 22, 11 places, performing well above market expectations. Return on investment 190% at SP. 20. So the last 2 years, we'll see there, 7 from 11. Yeah, that's pretty good going. So you kind of got, immediately you can see his handicap hurdlers, 20 furlongs or further. I should think he buys more stoutly bred horses. That's kind of what that may suggest. Kind of stayers of the future, or he trains them to be kind of stayers of the future. Proper national hunt types, which may explain why kind of the further they start off at over their kind of handicap debut careers or handicap careers, the better. Small stats, I know, but 50% place. And we can look there, pretty impressive really, and some decent priced winners. I should think we can always break down, and you can look at the odds moves. You can see how the odds moved against the market. So the opening versus SP here, so that's kind of the opening odds of 10-15 minutes before the race starts, versus their SPs. You can see how much the price has moved, and the kind of plus figures if they've shortened, so the points difference between the opening odds and the starting price. So we're down to here, so actually you can take the opening odds, you'd have had, well, only 3 points more above SP, but still it's better than nothing. Actually, as you can see, so far taking them at Betfair starting price is pretty similar when you add those 3 points on and probably take away commission. So that's a little interesting angle. All these handicap hurdlers in general, but especially those that are going off at 20 furlongs, 2 miles, 4 furlongs, or further. If I just remove the odds cap, so to dig back out, let's we saw there were 3 places on the original set of horses that were big prices. It'll be interesting to see if there's any here. No, not really. These ones have all been 12 to 1 or under, but I'd use the 20 to 1. We know the stats pull from the bigger set in terms of him being 0 from 39, 3 places, with those that are priced 22 to 1 or bigger. So I'd use 20 to 1 as a guide. Market support is clearly important, but he has a good splattering of winners kind of in the 12 to 1 and shorter range. So that's an angle for the notebooks, so add them in. Nicky Richards handicap hurdle debutantes, all of them pretty much 20 to 1 or under, but especially those that are running over 20 furlongs or further for the first time. There's nothing really on track, nothing really on much else, so that's that one. I've probably been talking 20 minutes already, actually. I think I probably have, but I'll keep going. That was never going to happen, was it? So we've got his handicap hurdlers. We know they do well in terms of on debut. I'm going to add the odds again, and we can use this stats pool to just have a look really to see if there are any other angles. In terms of the trainer behaviour, human behaviour stuff, so we're going to be looking at track, jockey. We can have a look at class in terms of profiling. So we've got that start the set. As you've seen, the profit is 41 points just by his handicap debutants, and that knocks out over 280 odd bets you don't have to bother with, and you can get the same profit with his handicap hurdlers just by backing those making their handicap debut. But let's have a look. So you've got the dig function here, that's what I want to look at. To the right hand side you can look at, so you can set the parameters here, given this minimum 1 bet, wins high to low. You can look at various different things. You need to couple, so find a couple of different angles that you can put together. So if we look at look at track and jockey, I'll mix those two together. If we look at track and jockey, we can see if there are any particular tracks with any particular jockeys that do well. So Brian Harding, handicap hurdlers at Carlisle. Carlisle's on today, isn't it? Have they got any running? We'll note that down. Hopefully I might get this published and recorded before the afternoon. I'm not sure if they do. Can I look? Hold on. If I run it, qualifiers, it's not going to come up with today. Now. Right, there we go. So no qualifiers today. So we can ignore that for now. But so yeah, Brian Harding, Carlisle, 7 from 13, 7 places, 33 profit loss of 33 points, Betfair 36, 141% above market expectations. So that's all right. Brian Harding at Kelso, again, 31%. 6 point, that might be better, taking bigger prices as well, but they're performing way above market expectations still, so that's good for the future. And then we're kind of getting down. Ayres okay, but Perth, Market Raisin, Fergal Davis, that name doesn't ring a bell. I'm assuming he may be retired. Haydock, that's decent enough. I mean, I don't say many there, 6, but 2 have won, 3 have placed. Dougie Costello, Market Raisin, obviously McCoy's gone. Utoxeter, Newcastle's alright, and then you're getting into the realms of ones. And also, of course, interesting is to look at those where they may not do so well, but there's not too many big numbers. So, I mean, the other way to do that, I mean, Brian Harding's the main man, isn't he? So we can go back out, reverse to the starter set of handicap hurdlers, 20 to 1 or under since 2011. We can break down by jockey, so that's the other way. You can dig and then you can press the run and dig into those little micro angles more if you wish. But I'm going to look at jockey, wins high to low. So yeah, we can see there all the way down. Brian Harding, unsurprisingly, is the main man. And you know, there's other things of note there, but how's the Nichols? Adam Nicol, he's won from 2-2 place. I think he started riding for him more. But so yeah, we've got Brian Harding. I mean, that's another one you could just follow. Brian Harding riding for Nicky Richards. As we've seen, 2013 was a pretty poor year in general. But breakdown by track. So this will give a firmer idea actually of all the numbers, rather than those parameters I set earlier. But again, there's nowhere where they do really badly at necessarily. But certainly Carlisle, Kelso. You know, I'd put in the likes of Haydock and Utoxa just because they don't go there very often, and they look like they're worth noting when they do. Hexham, when they get going again, may be of interest. You know, these are small numbers, and Richards is going to improve on some of them, no doubt. But if you just took those 4 tracks as a little micro angle, Nicky Richards, Brian Harding, handicap hurdlers, 20 to 1 or shorter, Carlisle, Haydock, Kelso, Utoxa. As you can see, not too many bets. 2013, well, we know about that, but 2014, 2015, pretty good. I don't think there's much you can do, much more you can do with that. I mean, you could look at class, but then you're kind of getting down into very small numbers. Class 5, 0 from 5-2 places. Wouldn't necessarily just ignore that them because of that, but you know, they are what they are. We can break down into odds again. So always kind of going out and going back in, just to make sure you're actually finding something useful and you're not ignoring anything. So yeah, they're mainly 12 to 1 or under, but as we know, he has had winners kind of up to 20, from 12 to 1 up to 20 to 1. So at the moment they're 0 from 5 at those tracks, priced over 12 to 1, but that's not to say they won't have a big price winner or a bigger priced winner at some point in the future. But that information's there. We did see with his distance stats with his handicap hurdle debutant, so it'd be interesting to see if there are anything worth note of distance. No, not really, not with these types. Actually thinking about it, I suppose if you think about the handicap hurdle debutants, if those running over 20 furlongs or further are probably stepping up from their novice and maiden handicap hurdles, as I think about it, because they might be running over 16 to 18 furlongs, say, in novice hurdles. So actually that's more logical, so they're improving for a step up in distance, whereas those that are running below, what are they, 2 from 16, 7 places, running below 20 furlongs, the handicap hurdle debutants, are probably running at the same distance they've been running at in novice hurdles, and there isn't necessarily much of a reason why they may suddenly show improvement. So that would explain that maybe for that angle. But back to this one. Yeah, there's not much there really, is there? I don't think there really is no reason to improve on results or try and, I don't think, find reasons to ignore anything else or dig. What we've got, distance, class, everything else, you know, you start digging into other angles with that, when it gets this micro, you're just going to be small numbers and not worth bothering with. So there you go, that's a good guide, 38%, so that's another little one. Brian Harding, Nicky Richards, Carlisle, Haydock, Kelso and Utoxa in handicap hurdles. What else? Let's let me back to the odds. I don't know why I just deleted that. what time are we on? Probably about half an hour. So you get the idea. Some of you may stop watching now, or you can carry on. I'll just keep plodding on through. Clearly 20 minutes was a bit ambitious. So we've gone to, what are we, 20 to 1 and below. Breakdown by track. Just to get a feel to see if there are any tracks where, you know, jockey booking doesn't really matter. What have we got? So, yeah, I've sorted it by wins just to put in some order. So Air 20%, profit loss of 12. Carlisle with Scene, all those wins with Brian Harding on, weren't they? 7 from 13. Perth's alright generally. Kelso is a loss, but not when Brian Harding's on board. Musselburgh, actually. What else? You know, Haydock's 3 from 10. We looked at that. Sedgefield 3 from 11. If we look at Musselburgh, it looks like a little decent angle, maybe. Oh, okay, so the first 2 years. So actually, if you looked at Musselburgh in the last 4 years, although it does include the bad 2013, haven't done so well. That might be because of the type of horse, or there was one horse that liked the track in particular, I'm not sure. One for hockey, won a couple of times. So yeah, that's the kind of thing to look at. You can dig into, look at recent history, but no, generally they've done okay, but the last few years, well, last 2 years not so great, but again, small numbers, and who's to say, you know, you won't repeat or have a few more winners in the next few months at Musselburgh. I'm just trying to think what else. Of course, you can take that top set and get a general feel for the yard by then looking through different elements. So we can look at all race distance just to get a feel. You know, here though, all runners 2 miles do okay all the way through. I mean, there's no way in particular. He's just a very good trainer. You know, he doesn't have distance. He's clearly good at knowing what his horses can do. We can look at class. Is there any overall class that we should be wary of? Not really. I mean, class 3 do pretty well. 16 from 75, 29 places, 37 points. But you know, there's nothing there you'd kind of dismiss out of hand. We've looked at track, looked at jockey, we looked at handicap, hurdle, debut. I mean, there's all kinds of other things we could look at. I'm just glancing at my trend stats checklist just to get a feel. So what we've got horse age. I mean, these ones obviously clearly more unexposed. I mean, that's interesting. If you get, you know, it's handicap hurdlers that are 8 or older. Clearly 12-year-olds done alright. 9-year-olds not so. I mean, as a general rule, those that are aged 8 or over, 11%, they're performing 7% below market expectations. They'll lose you 32 points, betting £1 on each one. So that's not good. And that's kind of what you'd expect, I suppose. Those kind of horses are always going to be open to younger legs, and younger horses that are more unexposed or less exposed. I'm going to take them on. But if you looked at his 4 to 7-year-olds, you know, again, that's a decent little starting point. Sorry, you probably just heard a clatter there. 50 from 204. So yeah, knowing that his 4 to 7-year-old handicap hurdlers are kind of 25%, 63 points. That's useful information. Again, taking out that bad horror year, hopefully that would have been clear that his yard wasn't in form during 13, I should say. But certainly the last couple of years have been very good. You know, if you use that as a starting stat, maybe, I don't know, Going, do his do particularly well? Looking at Going's interesting. No, nothing there really. Is there's performance on good to soft. They're all pretty similar. No, the percentages improve, and the above market expectations improve quite significantly actually when you look at those that are on soft and heavy. That may be because he just targets certain months of the year rather than targeting Going, if that makes sense. He probably doesn't do that well over the summer in general, maybe, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Right, okay, well, I always have my monthly trainer angles eyes fixed to look for the future. I would like to think, as you look through that little list, there's 2 months in particular that may be jumping out at you. April, pretty good. I wonder if that's targeting some of the spring festivals. Air, maybe. I don't recall many from Aintree necessarily, but what else have we got? February. So there's nothing. What's the summer like? No, he has winners and they tick along. They seem to be generally well backed, but backing them at a bigger price, SP or above SP, might do okay. But looking at November and December, that's caught the eye, obviously. So yeah, it's handicap hurdle, debutants age 4 or 7 in November, December. Pretty solid. And I think that's safe to say we may put him on the back burner for a few months' time, because they seem to come out and do well. Let's have a look. Always when you're thinking of national hunt horses, well, I think anyway, in kind of November, December, you're thinking, are they fresh? How many runs have they had? Are some of them making their debuts that have been off the track, or their seasonal debuts that have been off the track for 3 months or more, for example? And you may have a fitness edge. He may obviously get them primed. So yeah, those that haven't had a run in the last 3 months, fitness clearly isn't a problem. But even those that have clearly do well and keep getting better. So that looks like an interesting time of year. We'll check that it's not all the same horses. I mean, that's the other thing you want to check with any kind of trainer-based system, is that all the wins aren't from like 1 or 2 horses or 3 and 4. Which isn't a bad thing for smaller yards, but when you get to bigger yards, you want to make sure that it's a pool. And you can see here it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, there's 10 different horses there that those 17 wins have come from, which is decent enough, and suggests that he'll find new ones for the years ahead. So that's another little micro for Nicky Richards. November, December, handicap hurdlers aged 4 to 7. We know 20 to 1 and under. Generally 12 to 1 and under, even better. So that's that. What else can we look at? Let's have a general look at. Let's just get rid of age, so you can build back out, build back in. Breakdown of back to the horse runs in 90 days, which, as you may be aware or not, that is an angle I like to look at in general. So we've got in general he's not that great. So it's interesting that actually half of those winners, 4 of them from just 6 runners, came in the months of November and December. It's interesting in itself. Those that you could describe as being race fit but not overrun, which could be 2 runs in the last 90 days, they've made their debut, they've had another run, they're having a second or third run, I should say, within the last 90 days. Do alright actually. What, 25 from 95. Those have had 2 runs, so they're clearly kind of spot on. They may not have been fit for when they had their first run. They may not have been, might even be coming on for their second run after a break of 3 months. We know that age is a factor, so let's break down and see if we can go back in and look at the age stat. So yeah, where's 8-year-olds actually? So I mean, this is just an example of how you can just keep looking. It's 8-year-olds in this particular angle of 5 from 11. Those that have had 2 runs, they're older, maybe they just need a lot more work. That would be an explanation, I suppose. An older horse needs actually more races and more running to get them fit and to get them spot on. Maybe that's a logical thinking behind that, maybe, not too sure. But again, that's another little angle. Horses age 4 to 8, exactly 2 runs. Up and down as you'd expect, but generally decent enough. So that's that one. That necessarily isn't one to get too excited about, and I should think some of the other little micro angles might cover some of those. But if we get rid of that, so yeah, I'm just going through here to show you the thinking and to show you the kind of different ways that you can slice and dice and research a kind of decent starting set of data. The other one I want, well, we've done horse runs. I mean, you can always look at how many runs a horse has had in their career, maybe, just to get a feel. But again, actually, there's nothing too much there. Those that are very unexposed do pretty well. I should think a lot of these, if not all of them, let's just look, there's nothing else, is there really? You know, if you were like saying, I don't know, Nicky Richards handicap hurdlers have had, what, 8 to 9 career runs. I mean, that's just backfitting, obviously, because then you could pick 24, and some people you might, you know, a backfitted Nicky Richards system might be handicap hurdlers that have had 8 to 9 career runs, 24, etc., etc. So that's always important to make sure there's a logical reason for, you know, anything you do and why you would omit certain factors, etc. So anyway, 3 to 4 career runs, 10 from 18. Let's just have a look and see how many of those had a run in a handicap hurdle. I suspect most maybe 0, but you never know. Oh no, okay. So there's some that do come on for having an experience. I'm just going to note that down. So I'll try and repeat these below the video if I can remember which ones I've just gone through. So again, the last couple of years really cranked up there. So you can see there's what, 3, 4, 5, 6 horses before, but he's had 12 in the last 2 seasons. You know, that's pretty good. Generally, you know, 1 11 to 1 winner, generally well backed. They all seem to kind of run their race. You know, 13 of the 18 have placed. So again, that's another really niche micro angle. National Hunt handicap hurdlers, Nicky Richards, 3 to 4 career runs. I was just going to delete the odds. So we've got, just to see how many, I mean, they're going to be small numbers, aren't they? Yeah. But just so you can see, 11 to 1 has been the biggest winner, but there's only been 4 qualifiers above, 1 placed at 12. There's a couple there you probably could have just ignored, actually, to improve the stats further. They were a really big price. So yeah, that's that. I'm just trying to think, top of my head. I mean, you've always got things, of course, you can, I know weight's an interesting one, actually, so let's look at weight excluding jockey claim. You know, does he do particularly well with top weighted horses? Let's have a look. 11 stone 12, 10 from 45, so do pretty well there. That suggests he's pretty good at putting his classier horses into races where they'd be top weight. Clearly they're top weight because on ratings they're the best horse in the race, but he's pretty good at placing them. You're not going to get rich by backing them necessarily, but again, that's useful information to know, that they have a 22% strike rate. Again, always with weight, it depends on the size of the horse as much as anything else. Some horses simply cannot carry 11 stone 12, however good they may be, just because they physically can't carry it and don't have the strength or the bone structure, etc. Weight, what else have we got? I mean, you can look at finishing position last time out. You know, to his that were beaten. I mean, another interesting angle for this is for some trainers is pulled up, say, which I like the look of. You know, the likes of, there's Paul Nicholls, I think, Nigel Twist and Davis. I mean, that's probably a video for another day. Those that pulled up last time out, there's some trainers have a knack of getting them back to the race course and winning. Nicky Richards doesn't look like he's one of those. 29 horses pulled up last time out in handicap, well, that are running in a handicap hurdle today. Only 2 have won, 8 have placed, so he definitely isn't much good at that. Well, they fell over hurdles, so clearly, again, probably gives them a bit of extensive schooling, and that's that. but general, there's nothing there, is there? 9th, 10th. Those that won last time out have a 30% strike rate, and actually, 29% strike rate, performance above market expectation. That's pretty good for a horse that finished first last time out. I would expect that figure to be quite a bit worse, but there you go, 30% that finished first last time out. Might be another micro angle there. Well, I don't know really. There might be certain tracks he takes them to. Who knows? I mean, I'm conscious this video's been going on for about twice as long as I thought it may, but that's just what happens when I get stuck in my horse race base account, so apologies. But yeah, I mean, that's a good little set of stats as it is. First last time out. Well, the other thing we can look at actually while we're here, well, that doesn't include the odds cap either, that first last time out. So I'll go back and look at that afterwards actually. But let's just put those odds caps back. Distance move is the one. Well, class move and distance move. So let's have a look at his record with class movers. Those he moves up in class, what have we got? Drop's alright. A drop of one class, that's no good. So clearly putting a horse dropping in class isn't something he generally does well with. Again, same class. Those moving up in class by one, that's interesting. They may be overlooked by the market, them thinking, well, I've just won a class 4, they might scraped home by a length, they're not going to do well in this class 3, or they're running in a class 2 and only won a class 3 last time out. Clearly, Nicky Richards is pretty adept at moving his handicap hurdlers up in class. Up in class can be, in horse race base, say a listed to a grade 3 race would be a move of one class, even though they're both class 1s. I should think most of these are from, say, class 3 to class 2 or class 5 to class 4. But there you go, those stats again, pretty solid set of stats there for those moving up in class. So there's a lot, as you can see, with his handicap hurdlers, there are lots of ways in to get a firm grip on when they may run well. And I should think some of these horses may qualify across all of those little micro angles, and then we can dust off the wheelbarrow and get lumping on, maybe. It might not be too wise. So, up in class, let's have a look at distance move. So our horse is improving for moving up in distance, say, or dropping in distance. What's he like with those types? Some big distance movers here, all the way down, running at the same, moving down. I'm looking at moving up. No, actually moving up, 2 furlongs, some of these will be covered by the handicap hurdle debutants. In general, that isn't a tactic that seems to work that well. I mean, you could look at them all actually, take the minimum, up the minimum of half a furlong and just tick all of those that he's moved up in trip. Just to get an idea really, not necessarily just to do a micro angle. But yeah, no, that's alright, 20%. Moving up in trip, 8-9 points profit, 21% above market expectation, so that's nothing much there. So I think that's it, because I have been going on for an age. I know some of you like my long rambling videos, some of you probably want them a bit shorter. I'm just looking at my checklist. Oh, what else haven't we looked at? Hold on, let's just see how he sources his horses and whether or not he does well with any from particular breeding, Irish, French, etc. I should think, what have we got? Now GB Breds does alright. Irish, well, there's nothing really there, is there really? French Breds do alright. USA not so well, but no, there's nothing there. You'll find some trainers that just have an awful record with French Breds or don't buy them very well. That may be because of who their bloodstock agents are, the people they use to buy them. They might do better buying horses from Ireland or from Britain, whatever. So that's always interesting angle to have a look at. We've gone through runs and career. I mean, you can, when I'm profiling a race, I look at kind of best in 3 runs. just to see if the horses historically for that race need to be in form. Well, that no reason why that can't be for a trainer. So, I mean, those that have shown form, so those that have been kind of first or second on their, well, at least one of their last 3 starts, they do alright. So yeah, kind of Nicky Richards handicap hurdler in form, pretty, decent record. Though we've found some kind of better micro angles in terms of making profit and strike rate, etc. So that's that. Let me just go through my list. Career. What else have we got? We've done handicaps, debutantes. I mean, you can look at all things really. You can look at how many times the horse has won in the class before. We did see his record with horses moving up in class. So I should think if we click that, you can see, so horses that have never won in the class, 24%. And as you'd expect, actually, the more wins they have in the class, the more exposed they're going to be, and the worse the results get. So I thought, if any of his have had 2 or more wins in the class they're running at, they're only 6 from 62, 20 places, 30% below market expectations, loss of 33 points. So that's an interesting one. Those unexposed in the class. If I go back out and go back in, just to see the overall stats, 0 to 1 win in the class, that's alright, 22%. It's quite a few bets per year, 56, 48, and there are actually better ways we can make those similar or better profits with fewer bets, which is what I always like for a micro angle. So that's that. I mean, you can do that all the way through really. Use the trends and checklist yourself and stats checklist for this purpose as well, just because it's got some good ideas in. But I don't think there's anything else I want to look at. So that has been pretty good actually, I think. Hopefully you've got your notebooks out, you've found a few nice angles in there or something for you to dig in yourself. I will go back through those and write them up and post them, well, some of the decent ones, and I might spend some time just double checking that they're logically sound, and that I've covered everything I want to. And I'll repeat some of those below the video. But yeah, hopefully you've found that useful. You can dive into some of those stats yourself. That is how, pretty much in general, I use my Horse Race Base account to research and find trainer micro angles. We've found probably 3 or 4 decent little ones there, which I hadn't looked at before, so that was pretty useful. You can go back into those handicap stats at the beginning. I'm sure some of you may have spotted some other trainers there that may be worth kind of digging into and going through that same process, and I'd encourage anyone with a Horse Race Base account to do exactly that. And if you find anything for any other trainers along those lines, please do post a comment and share it, would be great. I will work out whether or not to start including any of those Nicky Richards ones within the micro system bundle of qualifiers on the daily reports. But for now, having wanted to spend about 20 minutes looking at Nicky Richards, I think we're on to about 50. But it takes time. It takes time and effort to go through those micro angles, to do it properly, to build out, to build back in, to make sure that you are not backfitting, to make sure that the stats pools are big enough in terms of for initial research, and actually to just get it right, because you need to have confidence on any qualifiers at those angles can come up with in the future. So that's pretty much that. I think that's it really. I don't think there's anything else I need to say on that. As I said, I'll post some of those little micro angles below, and all that's left for me to say is I hope you found that interesting. I hope the video hasn't dragged on too long, and until the next time, goodbye. Thanks for watching.